Lagyanatimirandasya Granjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmalatam Yaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master has kindly opened my eyes with a shining torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. Where would we be without Srila Prabhupada giving us this wonderful knowledge? We owe so much to him. We'd still be in ignorance.
Yes.
So, by his mercy, which is this knowledge, that is the mercy. Some people wonder, what is the mercy of the Guru? I mean, really the mercy is that the Guru gives us knowledge by which we can come out of ignorance, which is the cause of all of our suffering. So Prabhupada's giving us all mercy, that we're all getting this knowledge. Even though after, you could say physically, he's not with us anymore, but he is still with us in the form of this transcendental sound. These transcendental words, this transcendental sound, Prabhupada is still present, giving us his association. Okay, so we're continuing reading chapter 5, which is entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. Text number 10. So what we'll do, I'll read one line and then you can all respond at the same time. We'll try that technique. Okay? So the text 10. Brahmanyadhaya karmani.
What verse is it?
Text 10. 10.
10. Oh, I was
chapter,
seeing 9. Okay,
10.
okay. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, we did 8 and 9 last week.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Brahmaya Dhyaya Karmani.
Yeah. I'll do it again. Brahmanyadhaya karmani. Okay, repeat.
Brahmaya Dhyaya Karmani.
Sangam tyaktva karotiya.
Sangam Tyaktva Karotivya.
Lipyate na sapapena.
Lipyate na sapapena.
Padma patrami vambasa.
Padma patrami vibhammasa.
Okay. Good. So just recapping on last week before we continue with today's one. So 2 verses together last week. A person in the divine consciousness, although engaging in seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving about, sleeping and breathing, always knows within himself that he actually does nothing at all. Because while speaking, evacuating, receiving, or opening or closing his eyes, he always knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he is aloof from them. So there's a lot there in these 2 verses, basically talking about the body and its activities and the body's interaction with the world around us. With our senses, we're eating something, so that's involving our tongue, and it's involving the object of the tongue, which is some food, and we're sleeping on a bed and so forth. So many things are going on in this world, but a devotee in divine consciousness is mentioned here. Divine consciousness knows that actually we have nothing to do with these bodily activities, that these activities are going on under the control of Krishna ultimately, but directly through the demigods, but ultimately and indirectly from God's direction. And that's in the 9th chapter, text 10. where Krishna says that everything in the material world is going on under his direction. So we can look at that, 9th chapter, text 10. Very important verse. Materialistic people, of course, godless people, think that there's no one in control of the material world. But here we learn something different. Krishna himself is telling that he is in control of the material world, and that the material world is one of his energies. He has the material energy. Three main categories: there's material energy and spiritual energy and the living entities. So these are three main categories of energies. So one of the energies is the material energy. So Krishna in this verse, what does he say? Gulshan, would you like to read it?
The material nature, which one of my energy is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving being under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again.
So what are the three main categories? What did I just say? What are the three main categories of energies that Krishna is in control of? Who remembers? What are the three categories I just...
Marginal. I can't remember what you said. But three, isn't it?
Your voice was a bit scrambled, Bhakti Mala. Can you speak a bit louder and slowly?
I can't actually see either. There's background. Someone's got something going on in.
Oh, there's some background noise. Yeah. Okay.
Internal, external, marginal, but I wasn't sure if that's what it said.
Yeah, the internal energy, that's the spiritual world, and the external energy, that's the material energy, and the marginal energy, that's the living entities, that's us, the spirit souls. So these are the three main categories of energies. So, and Krishna's in control of all of them. So one of them is mentioned here, this material energy, material nature. It's all working under Krishna's direction, ultimately. But Krishna doesn't meddle in the day-to-day things. He's playing his flute and herding the cows and playing with his friends in the spiritual world. So he delegates all the day-to-day control that's required for making our eyes work and our arms and legs work and everything. That's the demigods controlling that. So Krishna's free from all these chores of material creation. What's Krishna's main interest? What's Krishna's main interest?
What's that
one
noise?
of you there is a lot of noise. If there's a lot of noise where you are, could you please turn your speaker off, your microphone off? Please turn your microphone off if there's a lot of noise where you are. Okay, let's try again. So what's Krishna's main interest? Is he interested in people's materialistic activities?
No.
What's all your main interest? You can understand God by understanding yourself. What's your main interest? Where would you put your heart? What would you put your heart into? Would you put your heart into people that don't care about you at all?
No.
That don't have any love for you, don't care about you, that never think about you?
So you're talking about going back to Godhead?
It's related to that. So, I mean, all the souls that have gone back to Godhead, that are in the spiritual energy, the spiritual world, they all love Krishna. So that's where Krishna puts all of his attention. His maximum attention goes into that. Those souls that are in the spiritual world that love him, and also those souls that are in the material world that love him. And that's one of the main purposes of the material world, to help the souls that have forgotten him to reawaken their love for him and engage in bhakti again, in loving service. So he's very interested in wherever there's loving service, whether it's in the spiritual world or the material world. If someone's singing about him, talking about him, offering some food to him, then he's right there. That's where he is. And for those persons that are engaged in just their own selfish sense gratification, then for those people, they're left under the control of the material nature and the demigods. So this verses 8 and 9 were telling us that for someone in Krishna consciousness or in divine consciousness, that they are not really putting their heart into this material world and their bodily activities, and they understand they're not in control, they're not the doer, but they're always acting in devotion, always acting in devotion. So they're using their senses, but for pleasing Krishna. Normally in the material world, people are using their senses for their own enjoyment, for their own gratification. But the devotees are using their same senses, but for Krishna's pleasure. That is the difference. So externally, it might seem the same, that a materialistic person is eating and a devotee is eating. But although externally it's the same, but it's actually very different, because the devotee eats in Krishna consciousness and he eats food that's been offered to Krishna. And when he's eating it, he's thinking that this food tastes so good because... Why does the prasadam taste so good?
Do you mean because it's pure?
Because it's offered to Krishna.
Because it's pure, it's offered to Krishna, because Krishna has tasted it. Because Krishna has tasted this food, that's why it's so delicious. That's why it's so delicious. So all the activities are inspiring the devotee in a remembrance of Krishna and Krishna consciousness. So that's what the last verses were talking about. So even while a devotee is walking somewhere or eating, closing his eyes, he's always thinking of Krishna. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. That's the ultimate guideline of Krishna consciousness. So he's not so much involved with all the external activities, but his mind is always gone into inwardly and thinking about Krishna. Okay, so let's go into today's verse, text 10. Okay, Bob, would you like to read the translation for text 10?
Yep. This material nature, which is one of...
No, not that one. No.
Oh, sorry.
No.
The one
Fifth
who
chapter,
performs.
text 10.
Sorry, I'm on it. Yep.
Yeah.
The one who performs, is that right?
Yes.
Yep. Sorry. One who performs his duty without attachment, surrendering the results unto the Supreme Lord, is unaffected by sinful actions, as the lotus leaf is untouched by water.
So one of the main points that comes up again and again in the Bhagavad Gita, we should do our duty. We should do our duty. Now we can hear from you. What does that mean to you from what you've been reading and hearing over the years? What is our duty? What does that mean? Doing our duty.
Now, again, are you talking about trying to get back to Godhead?
Serving Krishna.
That's related to it. That's related to it.
Serving Krishna.
Serving Krishna. How is doing your duty serving Krishna?
You can, making a prasadam, flower garlands, cleaning, everything is just for the Krishna.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's also any work we do, it's just changing our consciousness to serve Krishna as well. That involved in your duty could be a taxi driver, but you're doing it for Krishna. So duty means different things to different people, I guess.
Yep, those are all good points. So we're just talking about duty here. These are instructions that are given in the scriptures, in the Vedas. They're prescribed or given in the scriptures. And the scriptures, where does the scriptures come from? Where did the Vedas come from?
From
Upanishad.
That's part of the Vedas, Upanishads.
Vasudeva wrote the Vedas down, but they come from Krishna himself.
Yeah. The ultimate source of the Vedas is God himself, is Krishna or Narayan. Narayana, Veda, Narayana, Saksat, one of the Vedic verses saying the Vedas is directly the breathing or the words of Narayana. And Narayana is just an expansion of Krishna. So ultimately that the Vedas come from Krishna.
Can you say that again, our pay-per-view?
There's a verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam that says the Vedas is directly the breathing of Narayan. So Narayan is the four-armed form of the Lord, of Krishna. He's an expansion of Krishna. Krishna's first expansion is Balaram, and then Balaram expands into Sankarshan. Sankarshan expands into another Sankarshan, a second one, and that second one expands into Narayana. So, but ultimately we understand that the Vedic knowledge comes from God himself, not from any ordinary person. And those instructions or guidelines given by the Lord, these are our duties, are ultimately coming from him. And we're given, and what's the ultimate duty in the Bhagavad Gita, in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, says, Savadama Pritchaja, Mam Mekam Sharanam Vaja, Aham Tvam Sava Papabhyo, Mokshiyashami Mashuchaha. So that's 18th chapter, text 66, which is saying, just surrender to me. Abandon all your other self-created duties and just surrender to me. So that's basically Krishna's saying, just follow what I say, follow my instructions, do what I tell you to do, follow my orders. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna's telling Arjuna what? What is Krishna telling Arjuna to do?
To fight.
Telling him to fight. So that for him to fight, that's his duty. That's an order given by God. So ultimately we should see that our duties are orders given by God. And God gives us different duties according to our nature that we have. If we're in the mode of goodness, then we'll have Brahmanas duties. And if we are in the mode of passion, we'll have Kshatriya duties. And if we're in the mode of mixed passion ignorance, we'll have Vaishya duties. If we're in the mode of ignorance, we'll have Sudra duties. But these are all meant for purification. And like Bob said, to help us get back to Godhead. So all these duties are meant to purify us of our lower natures, of purify us of what? Of ignorance, of passion, like that. Even the mode of goodness, we need to get free from that. That's also a contamination, the mode of goodness. We want to come to pure goodness, which is love for Krishna. So all these duties are meant to purify us and help us get back to our original position where we love God. So all these duties are instructions meant for human beings, and we should follow these instructions, and they come through the scriptures and they come from the spiritual master. We can also see that whatever the spiritual master asks us to do, that's our duty. So whatever the Vedas instructs us to do is our duty. Whatever the spiritual master asks us to do, that's our duty. And you have two categories of duties. You have spiritual duties. That's given by God and the spiritual master and the scriptures. And then you have your material duties. These are for, maintaining our body and our family. There's different duties there. But these instructions are to maintain our body, even they come from God originally also. Like there's different duties for a grihasta mentioned in the Vedas. That means a family man. So all these are given in the scriptures for family people also. So even for our health, maintaining the body, maintaining the family, everything, all guidelines are given there by God, because God's our supreme Father. So He's responsible for all the children's maintenance and living. So He gives us good guidance, so how that we can have a happy, peaceful life in the material world and not go off track. Unfortunately, because we tend to be rebels in the material world, we ignore God's good advice, just like the kids often ignore the parents' advice and go off and do their own thing. So we're like that, rebellious kids, and we stray away from God's guidance, good guidance and counsel, and get ourselves in so much difficulty. We become attached to this material world. Whereas here it's saying you should do your duty without what? Do your duty without attachment. Attachment to what?
Fruit.
What is it that...
Fruit.
Yeah, the fruit or the result.
Yeah.
So you do your duty. That means you do what God tells you to do, which is coming from the scriptures, coming from the guru. Do what you're told to do. But there'll be some result of that work, definitely, either good or bad or whatever it is, profit or loss, victory or defeat. There's a world of dualities, of course. There's always going to be dualities there, happiness and distress. Sometimes you'll do your duty and happiness will be the result. And sometimes you'll do your duty and suffering will be the result. And these are the dualities of the material world. It's always going to be there. But we have to be detached from all these kind of results. Do your duty, even if it ends up in defeat, even if it ends up in loss, even if it ends up in distress. But you just keep doing your duty, and without attachment to the results. If you were attached to the results, and it wasn't the result that you wanted, what might happen?
Disappointment?
Yeah, we become disappointed. Yep, we become depressed or disappointed. You could see with Arjuna, right? When he realized, that this fighting was going to cause, mass death of his relatives and family members, he became depressed. You can look at it in the first chapter, right? Arjuna, he was so depressed, he dropped his bow and arrows and he put his head in his hands and he was crying. He was so morose and depressed, he was crying. And Krishna chastised him in the beginning of the second chapter. That why are you lamenting so much, like an ignorant person? So that's, if we are attached to a particular outcome, then we'll become depressed. Also, what might happen is that we might give up our duty. Oh, this work I'm doing is not bringing me the results I want. I'm not going to do it anymore. So then that's a disaster. If you stop doing your duty because you don't like the results, then that means you're going to stop following the instructions of the Lord. And if you stop doing your duty, then you're going to be affected by sin, and that's mentioned here. Unaffected by sinful reaction. So if you do your duty without attachment, you won't be affected by sin. But if you are attached to the result, then you'll become affected by sinful action. If you give up your duty, then you'll be affected by sinful action. Our duties are the order of the Lord. So if you stop following the orders of the Lord, obviously that's sinful. You know, just like if you go against the government, if you disobey the government, they're the leaders. These are the controllers. If you go against them, disobey them, then that's sinful, and you'll be punished. So in the same way, if we abandon our duties because we don't like the results, then that's sinful.
Is that the tax department is the representative of Krishna?
No.
To collecting that tax to maintain the country.
Yeah. I mean, this system was set up by Krishna originally, but the original system was a bit different. Okay. That there would be a king ruling a particular area, and you can go to the king and say, I need a bit of land to maintain my family. And the king would say, sure, you have a bit of land.
But you need to pay tax.
You need to pay tax. What is the tax? It's 25% of whatever you produce.
Yes, yeah. But if you do get a flood or some drought, then you get a tax, relief or something.
Well, that's the thing. If you don't produce anything, there's no tax. Okay. If you produce 100 sacks of potato, you got to give 25 sacks to the king. If you have a bad crop and you have 2 bags of potatoes, you give half a bag to the king.
You don't need to give it that 2 bags, you just keep it for your family.
What's that?
If you got a 2 bags, you just keep it for your family. You don't need to give, you got a mercy. Because what are you going to for your family for a whole year?
But the point is, you don't have to give something you haven't got. Yes. You only give a quarter of whatever you've got.
It's the same thing.
Whereas now, even if I make no income, I still have to pay rates and so many things. Even if I'm not making any income, even if I'm losing money, I still have to pay rates and so many bills and everything are there. So this system was very fair.
And
so there was a taxation system, but different than today.
Yeah, it's a system like whatever you got, that's what you can give. If you got a mercy, you can give it a mercy. If you got anger, you can give it anger.
Yeah.
If you got a negativity, you can give it a negativity. Whatever you got, that's what you're going to spread.
And it wasn't money that was given as in tax necessarily. It was whatever you are producing.
Yeah. Bara system. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So if we stop doing our duties, which are the orders of God, which is usually due to we're attached to the results and we're not getting the results we want, then you give it up. And then immediately you give up your duty, immediately you get affected by sinful reactions. And what's the problem with sinful reactions?
Life is terrible, huh?
It's gonna be terrible in this life. You're gonna suffer the result.
And then the next life could be.
The next life also, you're gonna come back. You're gonna have to come back to get the reactions of your sinful acts. So you both suffer in this life and in the next. So one should never give up one's duty, whether it's working out well or not working out well. One should stick to one's duty in any circumstances. And whatever the result, good or bad, is by the devotee, gives the result to the Lord. So it's got nothing to do with us, really, whatever the outcome of our work is. If we are successful, the success is given to the Lord, and if we fail, that is also given to the Lord. So it's really nothing to do with us. Prabhupada gives a wonderful example. If you, like a bank teller in the bank, say the bank teller deals with millions of dollars that day is coming into the bank, or millions of dollars is going out of the bank, does that have anything to do with the bank teller?
No.
Is the bank teller affected by that?
No.
$1 million
Because
profit or $1 million loss?
that's not his money.
It's not his money. So the same way, the devotee is not affected. Whatever happiness comes, or distress comes, profit comes, loss comes, success comes, failure comes, victory comes, defeat comes, whatever is coming and going, the devotee realizes it's got nothing to do with me. It's all the Lord's. That's all for the Lord. So we've just got to do our duty like that bank teller. But as soon as the bank teller puts even $1 in his pocket, what happens?
Oh, that is
Bank's
sin.
money.
Yes, it's.
Yeah.
And then Krishna knows. He has to pay back 10 times.
Yeah. Like that. And a beautiful example is given here. How you can be in the world and not affected by sinful reaction. So what's the analogy given to how you can be living in the world? How is it possible to live in the world without being affected by sinful action? What's the analogy in this verse?
Well, if you do everything for Krishna, then there can't be any sinful reaction. If
Yes,
I'm
true. Yes.
cooking or
But
cleaning
what's
or
the analogy?
anything,
What's the example?
example is like, it's a Devari, I tell them, your duty is to make dosa, just to make dosa. Doesn't matter if it's a crispy or not crispy. You just make dosa, Krishna will decide.
That's there.
The lotus leaf's not touched by the water. So.
Yeah, but in this verse, the analogy is given just in the same way that the lotus leaf is sitting in the water, but it's not touched by water. And you know that, right, from being at the farm, when it's like now in the summertime, there's so many lotuses. Has anyone been up and had a look at the lotus pond?
Yes, where the dam is. Yes, not the. Yeah, that's right. It's it's very nice. No matter water, it just flows back. It doesn't stay on the leaf.
It doesn't stay on the leaf. It's completely untouched by the water, although it's sitting in the water. So in the same way that the devotee in pure consciousness, divine consciousness, is in the material world, but is not touched by or contaminated by the material world. So we should all become like lotuses.
It's very challenging. I find it's very challenging.
Very, very. It's not talking so easy, but it's not that easy.
It's because my life's work. Just this.
Good. That's great. Make it your life's work. What a glorious life's work. To become like a lotus.
Yeah.
Become like a lotus. We dedicate our life's work to becoming a lotus devotee.
False ego. My false ego is just like too big. It's all,
Yeah, that's a Maya. It's just to trap you, no matter which form and comes that, and then it's just trap you there, and then just after that you realize there was a Maya, false ego and everything.
Yeah. But that's Krishna's mercy starting to work in your life already, that you're able to realize that you're in Maya. Even the ability to realize you're in Maya, that's not an ordinary thing. That also means you're getting Krishna's mercy. Because usually we're always in Maya, but you don't even realize you're in Maya. That's the problem.
Realization is this is the Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. One time a devotee said to Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, sometimes I feel like I'm in Maya. and Prabhupada said, you're always in Maya.
I was thinking
Not sometimes.
Sometimes you drop into Krishna consciousness.
That's the one, yeah. So yeah, Maya is not easy to overcome. And that's explained. Where is that explained? That's explained in the 7th chapter. Where is that? 7th chapter. Yeah, text 14. Text 14. 7th chapter, text 14. Bhakti Mali, you want to read that one?
This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome, but those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it.
So Krishna is acknowledging here, this material nature, Maya, is very difficult to overcome it. But he says it is possible to cross over it if you surrender. If you don't surrender to Krishna, it's impossible. But if you do surrender to Krishna, you can get out of it. You can cross over it. So this is our ultimate duty, to surrender to Krishna. And that's not too difficult, actually, because all we have to do is follow the instructions of our spiritual master. And what are our instructions of our spiritual master? Are they very difficult?
Not just the chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. That's it. And all
well, not just that, but and no meeting, intoxication, listening.
4 regulatory principle.
Yeah. And he said, try your best to spread Krishna consciousness, whether like you guys through distributing prasadam or through chanting on the streets or distributing books, but somehow try to help others. Be compassionate, try to help others, spread Krishna consciousness. And he said, if you do this, if you chant Hare Krishna, follow the 4 principles, try your best to help other people become Krishna conscious, then I guarantee you'll go back home, back to Godhead. So definitely we can cross over the material world. We can cross over the material, but we have to surrender to Krishna via medium of the spiritual master. And then something that's ordinarily very difficult becomes very easy. Becomes very easy. So yeah, we should make that our life's work to become a surrendered soul to our spiritual master and Krishna and follow his instructions. And then we can be like a lotus leaf. So we have hope. We have hope that we can cross over this material world by Krishna's grace.
We can't put the time limit on it.
No. But we just try our best.
Okay.
You know, like Deva Hari, you know, he should try his best to make the dosa crispy. Try his best to make the dosa crispy, and if it doesn't turn out crispy after trying his best, well, then that's Krishna's. It's all up to Krishna. But we have to try our best. That's all. And whatever the result, whether we make it back to Godhead in this lifetime or we don't, that's up to Krishna. But we have to try our best to do it because Krishna wants us to come back to Godhead. That's his order. That's his order. He orders every human being to surrender to him and engage in devotional service. So we have to do it. That's our duty. That's whether you like to or not, but that's our duty. That's another meaning there in duty is something you have to do it. It's not a matter of whether you feel like it or you don't feel like it. But duty is like to look after the children. It's the mother's duty. You know, whether she feels like it or doesn't feel like it, you know, she has to do it, you know. So, or the husband's duty to maintain the family. Oh, I don't feel like going to work today. Or it's too hot or whatever. No, he has to go. Or Prabhupada gives the analogy, just like in the summertime, it's very hot cooking in the kitchen, but the wife still, she cooks. It's a matter of duty, even though it's so hot and unpleasant, but she does it because it's her duty to cook for the family. So we all have various duties, and these are activities that must be done. They have to be done. That's an order given to us. Depending on what our position is, we have different duties, but the principle is the same, that there's different activities that we have to do, and we should never give them up.
But duties are varies, like some they do really hard duties. I know there's a construction site going on in front of our bhakti tree. I can see that, man, whenever it's so hot and all that, they keep doing that. And I just feel like we're sitting in the air condition. And then I just say, wow, it's just, and then like, you know, duties are varies. who's got what duties. It
Mm.
just, I give it a lemonade one day. There was 3 guys, and next day
Yep.
there was 8. I said, I can't give it 8 lemonade.
Yeah, that's okay. Don't be stingy. Give
No,
it
no,
out.
it's not. It's not me. I have got the answer to give that to my superiors, seniors, manager, and all. It's not my restaurant. I wish if it's my restaurant, I give everything free. But yeah. So otherwise, the bread will say, "Listen, mate, you're not good enough. Piss off." Then
No. If Brett has any problem with that, you get him to talk to me.
no. So I just and the next day there was 8, and I said, "Oh, I just okay." And then, but I just see that, like, how hot they are at the moment. Like, today was 30, 28, 30 degree. Saturday's got to be mid-30s, and they keep working.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the characteristics of a devotee, you can't bear to see others suffer. We can't bear to see others
And
suffering, and we try to.
sometimes you're like helpless.
Yeah, called paradukkha dukkhi. We feel
Yes,
unhappy. We
yes.
feel unhappy to see others unhappy,
That's why I was
and
feeling
when
like
others are happy, we feel happy. So, a materialistic person feels unhappy to see others happy.
and
That's a materialistic person.
and the more you distribute, more it'll come back to us
Mm.
from mercy of Krishna.
Yeah. So, and that's the essence of the bhakti tree, to give out Krishna's love, Krishna's mercy in the form of prasadam.
Oh yeah.
So we should never be stingy with that. And
No,
we should
no.
have faith that if it doesn't matter how much you give out, but Krishna will send more.
More in there. That's
Krishna will
right.
send more.
100%. 100%.
If you give less, then less you'll get. But the more you give, this is spiritual mathematics.
Yes.
The more you spend for Krishna, the more
Yes.
you distribute for Krishna, Krishna
Yes.
will send more.
Yes.
So
And
don't
with the
be
different
miserly,
arms.
kripana.
Mm.
Kripana, miserly mentality should be brahmana. Brahmana means very broad-minded, very magnanimous, very generous. So distribute the mercy.
Yes.
I'll tell you one story. Do you know how Food for Life started? Hare Krishna Food for Life.
No,
Who started it? How did it start?
I don't know.
Prabhupada was in Mayapur, and he was standing on the balcony of one of the buildings, like the Lotus building, looking out over the fields, and he could see a pile of food scraps. Because after eating prasadam, all the hundreds of devotees or whatever, it all gets thrown in a big pile out the back of the building. Because everything traditionally, of course, was biodegradable. So you'd eat on banana leaves and leaf plates and everything like that. So all the leftover bits of food and all the leaf plates and everything is all a big pile of that, and the clay cups and everything like that. And there was a bunch of dogs there fighting with the local village children for the food scraps. So the children were trying to keep the dogs away with sticks and everything like that, so they could get some scraps of food, the leftover food. And when Prabhupada saw that, how hungry these children are, that they're going through the leftover food, pile of food, and having to fight with dogs, that much, hungry they were, these little children, tears started coming from Prabhupada's eyes. And he said, from now on, from this day, I don't want to see anyone hungry within a 10-mile radius of any Hare Krishna center in the world. And that was the beginning of Food for Life.
Okay.
That was how Food for Life, from Prabhupada's compassion.
Very good.
Prabhupada's compassion for all the living entities. Within 10 miles of any Hare Krishna center, I don't want anyone to be hungry like that. That was his compassion. So just give out the mercy. It's not about profit or anything like that. It's about giving out Krishna's love, the spiritual master's love. The prasadam is a manifestation of Krishna's love for us. And Krishna's duty as a father is to feed all of his children. So that's what the prasadam is meant for, feeding the children. So if anyone's hungry, that food should be given to them. We should never hold back.
the Gulshan serves them because he serves them these huge plates of fish. He gets so much prasadam. He's
But they
very
take it
generous.
a leftover home, then for night time they eat that. It doesn't go waste. I always say you can take it home and you can eat in the evening or afternoon, something like that. Because I just
Yeah.
feel like, you know, if they lick in the plate complete, then I feel like I didn't give it enough. And then so even
Yeah.
if they take it home, someone else will eat it.
Yes, yes, yeah.
So it's like they give it a $13. We give it a $13 worth of stuff. I don't know. It just I feel like to give it a full plate.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's our duty, to give out the mercy. And then
And,
we're going to be like a lotus leaf. Okay, so let's read the purport. Gulshan, do you want to start reading the purport?
Yeah. Here, Brahmani means a Krishna consciousness. The material world is a sum total of manifestation of three mode of material nature. Technically, it's called Pradhana. The Vedic Hayam Sarvani Hai Ityadi Brahmana Upanishad 2. Tasmad Ityadi Brahmana Nama Rupam Annama Chajyate. Upanishad 1210. And in the Bhagavad Gita 14.3. Manayonira Mahad Brahman indicates that everything in the material world is a manifestation of Brahman. And although the effects are differently manifested, they are non-different from the cause. In the Upanishad, it is said that everything is related to Supreme Brahman or Krishna, and thus everything belongs to him only. One who knows perfectly well that everything belongs to Krishna, that he is proprietor of everything, and that therefore everything is engaged in the service of Lord, naturally had nothing to do with the result of his activities. Whether you want to continue?
Whether virtuous or sinful.
Want
Yeah,
me to
stop there.
continue or stop?
No, stop there, stop there.
Okay.
So a little bit technical in the beginning there, but what that's meaning is that
It's okay. Everything is belongs to Krishna on this
everything
planet.
belongs to Krishna, but also we should understand from this is that, I mean, we might say this is the material world, this is material energy, but ultimately it's all spiritual because it comes from God. So God is spiritual, right? So ultimately whatever comes from him is also spiritual. Does that make sense? So everything is Brahman, ultimately. We might say, oh, this is material energy, this is earth, this is water, this is fire. But all these energies, it's all coming from Krishna. So ultimately, it's all Krishna's energy, it's all spiritual energy. And that spiritual energy, which pervades everything, we call that Brahman. So Brahman is that all-pervading energy, which is also one aspect of God. So ultimately, in that sense, everything is God's energy, everything. And we read in that previous verse where Krishna said this divine energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome, but one who surrenders to me can cross over it. So he said divine energy. He didn't say material energy, did he? Why did he say call this material world divine energy? Because it comes from him.
Krishna.
So ultimately, everything is divine. But for our understanding, we separate it, this is material and that's spiritual. But from a higher perspective, everything is spiritual. But from our point of view, in the material world, we separate things. This is material and this is spiritual. Does that make sense? But from Krishna's point of view, or the pure devotee's point of view, everything is spiritual.
Yeah, when we do the our proprietorship, then it become material. Like, you know, it's my house.
Yeah, that's Maya.
That's material.
Yeah. But what material is, let's break it down a bit more. Material, what we're really talking about is material means you're forgetting that object's relationship with Krishna. That's material. Okay, you have a car. You think it's my car. You've forgotten that it's Krishna's car. You've forgotten that it's Krishna's energy. So what the material is you're forgetting that it's Krishna's energy. You're forgetting that Krishna's the proprietor of that thing. But ultimately, it's all spiritual energy, meaning it's all Krishna's energy coming from him. So let's go to the last verse of this chapter, the 29th verse, which is the peace formula of the Bhagavad Gita. Very important verse. Prabhupada quoted this verse many times. Does anyone want peace? If anyone wants peace, you better learn this formula.
The full consciousness on me, the person of full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifice and austerities, and the Supreme Lord of all planet and demigods, and benefactor and well-wishers of all living entity, attain peace from the pinch of material miseries.
So who wants to get free from all the miseries and be peaceful? So this is the formula. We have to live by this one. So beneficiary means he's the enjoyer. So he's the enjoyer of all of our activities. That's what we're saying here, right? In this verse. You do your activity, your duty, and it's given, the results given to him for his enjoyment. So this is the peace formula, that he is meant to be the enjoyer of all the work that we do. Not myself, not yourself, but he's the enjoyer of it. And another aspect of the peace formula is that he's the proprietor of everything. And that's what's mentioned in the purport. That's saying, and thus everything belongs to him only. So everything belongs to Krishna, and he's the proprietor of everything. So that's one other aspect of the peace formula, that he's the owner or proprietor of everything, and that he's the enjoyer of everything, and that he is the friend of everyone. That's what's mentioned here. The benefactor means friend, that he's the friend of everyone. I mean, many times we try to be the friend. We think we're the friend of everyone. We want everyone to be our friend, or we think that we're the friend of everyone, but it's not possible. Not possible. The real friend of everyone is God. And we have evidence of that because God is the only one that stays with us every moment that we're in the material world, isn't it? Who stays with us? Who stays with the
Because
soul
he resides inside us.
Yeah, the super soul. Even you're in the body of a dog or a cockroach or a worm or a demigod or a demon, and you're in Gulshan's body or Bhakti Mala's body, or a black body, white body, whatever, ugly body, pretty body, whatever, sick, healthy, that God stays with us. If we're in the hospital, if we're healthy, if we're educated, uneducated, rich or poor, only God is staying with us through all those situations. God is the only one. God is the only one. And life after life. As soon as we come into the material world, God is with us. And until we leave this material world, when we go back to the spiritual world, who's with us? God is with us. But not in the form of Paramatma, that's in the form of Bhagavan will be with us. But in all cases, God is always with us. So he's our real friend. Everyone else leaves us, isn't it, at some point? No one else is going to stay with us any longer than when the body dies. And some people will leave us before that, right? Divorce, like that, or we lose our money and we become poor and people leave us, or you behave badly and people leave us, or whatever, you don't perform very well and they leave us. So everyone else is conditional, in their relationship with us, but only God is unconditional. He loves us unconditionally. So he's our real friend. So this is the peace formula. So we want to get that into our hearts, that God is the enjoyer of all of our duties, all of our activities, and that he owns everything. He's the proprietor of everything, and that he's the friend of everyone. One time Prabhupada was asked, the devotee said, Prabhupada, previously you told us that our only true friend is Krishna. But now in the class you mentioned that the devotee is our friend. So how can that both be true? And Prabhupada said, yes, the devotee is our friend because he tells us that our true friend is Krishna. So we're not the ultimate friend, but we're directing someone to the ultimate friend, to Krishna. So then we're also the friend.
And then in other part you can say Krishna resides in devotees. So if Krishna is our friend, devotee is our friend, because
True.
he lives in the devotees.
True. But a devotee like Prabhupada is always pointing people to surrender to Krishna and chant Hare Krishna, engage in devotional service. So that's a real friend that's directing us to Krishna. And that's going to bring us the real happiness. So yeah, ultimately everything's Brahman. Ultimately everything is spiritual. And when we forget Krishna, that's what we call material or Maya. But when you connect it back to Krishna by engaging it in Krishna's service, in devotional service, then it becomes spiritualized again. And the example the scriptures give and Prabhupada gives is like an iron rod. If you have an iron rod and you poke it in the fire and you keep it in the fire and you take it out of the fire, and if you touch that iron rod to something, what will happen?
It's burned.
It'll burn it.
Yes.
So what happened to the iron rod?
You mean it was like a conductor, like a
Yeah.
conduit?
It becomes a conductor of fire. So it actually it transforms from being the element of iron to becoming the element of fire. And what's the evidence of that? Because you can burn something with it. Normally you can't burn something with an iron rod, but if you keep it in the fire long enough, it takes on that quality of fire. So in the same way, a so-called material thing, if you use it in Krishna's service, it becomes spiritualized like that iron rod. So it gets back its original spiritual quality. And that's perfect. Same also with this body. If we use this body in Krishna's service, this body becomes spiritualized. It becomes spiritualized. Okay, so Bob, do you want to continue reading the purport? From even one's material body.
Is that even one's material body? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Okay. Even one's material body, being a gift of the Lord for carrying out a particular type of action, can be engaged in Krishna consciousness. It is then beyond contamination by sinful reactions, exactly as the lotus leaf, though remaining in the water, is not wet. The Lord also says in the Gita 3:30, Mai Sarvani Kamani Sannyasa, resign all works unto me, Krishna. The conclusion is that a person without Krishna consciousness acts according to the concept of the material body and senses. But a person in Krishna consciousness acts according to the knowledge that the body is the property of Krishna and should therefore be engaged in the service of Krishna.
So why should we engage this body in serving Krishna? Because it's the property of Krishna. Krishna is the proprietor of this body. So naturally we should use this body for the benefit of the proprietor of Krishna. So this is very logical. See, by everything, that's one of the things that attracted me to the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic philosophy. It's very logical. Once we understand that Krishna created everything, and therefore he's the proprietor of everything, then it makes sense that we should use this body and everything else in Krishna's service, because he's the proprietor of it. That's natural. Just like your house, naturally, you have the right to enjoy all the household goods. If someone comes into your house and starts using your things, that's not lawful. That's sinful. You can't use someone else's property for your own benefit. So in the same way that everything ultimately is God's property, so it should be used for his pleasure. And if we don't, then we become sinful. We become sinful by taking God's property and using it for our own enjoyment. Of course, God gives us his property to use because we're his children. And the parents do that, right? The parents give out shares of the parents' property for the maintenance of their children. That's very natural. So God is happy for us to utilize his property, but we should use it in Krishna consciousness. We should use it in a gratitude of God and thanking God for all these things that he's providing us. Acknowledge him that he is the master and proprietor of everything, and thank him for looking after us, maintaining us, and protecting us. Would anyone like to add anything?
So are we the carer?
Yeah, well, you could call us like caretakers.
Caretakers.
Or there's a nice word, custodian.
Custodian.
Like a custodian. That we don't own the things. We're just looking after it on behalf of the owner. So we should see it like that. We're looking after the property on behalf of the owner. Like custodians.
And some people, they're looking after very well. They're collecting more and more and more. They're things like that. They own it.
So let's just look at that verse mentioned, 330. Mai savani kamani sanyasya.
Sorry, we're going to 330, are we?
Yeah, Prabhupada mentions 330 in the purport, so we'll just look at, he mentions the first line and the part of the second line, so we'll just look at the whole verse. So Mai means unto me, sarvani all, and karmani activities, sanyasya means give up. So give up all activities to me. Give up all activities. But especially, what does that mean, give up all activities? It doesn't mean give up your activity, but it means, and not do it, but it means give up the result of all the activities to me. Give up the results. And that you're not doing normally, of course, we do all the activities for our pleasure, for ourselves. But now we're giving that up. I'm not going to do all these activities for my pleasure anymore. I'm going to do it for Krishna's pleasure. Like Prabhupada said, my motto, my whole life was everything for Krishna, nothing for me. So that's that principle, Mai savani kamani sanyasya, of giving up all our activities to Krishna. I used to look after the house and the family and all my wealth and everything for my pleasure. Now I look after the house and the wealth and properties and everything for Krishna's pleasure, So externally it seems the same, but the motivating factor is different. We're doing it for the sake of Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna, rather than for our own sake, our own pleasure. So it doesn't mean you're giving up the activities, but it means the purpose for doing the activities is changing, and that Krishna becomes the enjoyer of the activities, rather than we're doing it for our own enjoyment, that we're doing it for Krishna's enjoyment. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's an amazing relief of all anxieties that a non-devotee can never understand, how a devotee is so stress-free, although going through many difficult situations.
It's because you know why they don't understand? It's like a jar of honey. From outside, no matter how much you try, you're not gonna get the taste of it until you open the lid, put the finger, and have a taste. And they look in the jar from outside.
Yeah.
How can it be sweet? How sweet is that? But you gotta get in.
Yes. Very good example. Very good.
There's no way from outside the jar you know how sweet the honey is, or bitter or sour, or what is it? Until you open the lid and get in. There's no other way.
Yeah. So until you start putting Krishna in the center and doing everything for him and putting yourself out of the center, you can't understand how blissful a life that is, how anxiety-free life that is. And it really is wonderful, because the devotee is doing everything for Krishna. He's not worried about himself anymore. And that becomes so liberating. That's like a burden off our shoulders when we do like that. And then you really become free from all cares, free from all worries. It's a very blissful state.
Can you imagine that everything you gotta do, and thinking that, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, for this, that. So tired, like, if you leave it up to Krishna, easy.
Yeah.
So easy. Otherwise, alone, how much can you do? And then, everything, I've got to do this, do this, do this. You get so much tired, but just leave it there. Okay, I'm doing for Krishna.
Yeah.
Simple as, light as feather.
Yeah. So let's just look a bit about that, how a devotee is free from all cares and anxieties. So this is in the 12th chapter.
Chapter?
This is in the 12th chapter. I'm just finding the exact verse. Yeah. Text number 16. 12th chapter, text number 16. It's 15 and 16, but we'll look at mainly 16, I think.
My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pain, and not striving from some results, it's very dear to me.
These verses are really cool. These are qualities that please Krishna very much, and we become very dear to Krishna if you have these qualities. And these are the qualities of a pure devotee, and this is what makes the pure devotee very dear to Krishna, is that they have these qualities. Let's just start from text 13, because it's so nice. So nice to hear about these.
13, 14 together.
Yeah, 13 and 14, and then 15 and 16. So we've got 3 verses here. We can read one each. So, Gulshan, you can read the first one, 13 and 14.
Yeah, the one who is not envious, but a kind friend to all living entity, who does not think himself as a proprietor and is free from false ego, who is equal in both happiness and in distress, who is a tolerant, always satisfied, self-control, and engaged in devotion service with the determination, his mind and intelligence fixed on me. Such a devotee of mine is very dear to me.
I mean, it's so far out. Let's just read a bit of the purport because it's so good. Go down a bit of 5 lines or so. It's saying here, 4 lines. Nor does a devotee become his enemy's enemy. He thinks, this person is acting as my enemy due to my own past misdeeds. That's beautiful, isn't it? Do you get that?
Yeah, no devotee.
The person that's acting as an enemy to me now is doing that, treating me like that in a bad way because of my own past, because I was acting as an enemy in the past to that person. So in this life, he's acting as an enemy to me. You see? So the blame doesn't go on that person that's my enemy now. The blame comes straight back to me, that he's treating me like this because of what I did in the past. He's just an instrument. He's just an instrument for my own karma. So you see what that does? It just finishes any bad feelings right now. It's finished. Then you can move on. There's no one to blame other than myself. And then you just accept that I stuffed up. I did the misdeeds. I stuffed up. So that's why he's treating me bad, because I treated him or someone else bad. And he's just an instrument to give me that reaction to my own past bad karma. And then you just let it go. And you don't have any bad feeling towards that person. You don't see him as an enemy. See, the pure devotee is saying here, doesn't see anyone as an enemy. There might be people treating him as an enemy, but he doesn't see them as an enemy. Like heaps of people treated Yudhisthira as an enemy, right? Like Duryodhana hated Yudhisthira. Dhritarashtra didn't like Yudhisthira. But is there anyone that Yudhisthira saw as his enemy? Did Yudhisthira have any bad feelings towards anyone? Oh, Duryodhana, you're treating me so badly. Dhritarashtra, the blind king, you're treating me so badly. I hate you. Did he have any bad feelings towards these people that were trying to kill him?
No.
Remember, they put them in the house of lac and tried to burn them.
Yeah.
They took away all their kingdom and took away their wealth. They tried to take their wife away, Draupadi. But did he have any bad feelings towards anyone?
No. If he does that, he wouldn't do it.
And how it's working is that they're seeing that this person's just an instrument to give me my own past misdeeds, the reaction to my own past misdeeds. And so it's saying here, so it is better to suffer than to protest. Whenever a devotee is in distress or has fallen into difficulty, he thinks that is the Lord's mercy upon him. He thinks that thanks to my past misdeeds, I should suffer far, far greater than I am suffering now. So it is by the mercy of the Lord that I am not getting all the punishment I am due. I am just getting a little by the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You see that? So the devotee is saying that because of my past misdeeds, I'm suffering, but Krishna is so kind, I should be suffering a lot more, but he's just reduced it to a little bit. And then that's exactly what a devotee said that I was with when the end of his finger got cut off in the vehicle we traveled in. He said, due to my past bad karma, I should have had my whole arm cut off. But Krishna's so kind, he just took the end of my finger off. So what a wonderful way to see it. And in that way, there's gratitude. Even in suffering, there's gratitude there. That's far out, isn't it? Whereas a non-devotee will say, why me? I didn't deserve this. Why? His finger should have got cut, not mine. I'm a good person. Like that, and there's so much anxiety. But a devotee is feeling gratitude and love for Krishna, even in a distressful situation. He thinks he should have suffered much worse because of his past misdeeds, but Krishna's minimized it. And then it says, therefore, he is always calm, quiet, and patient, despite many distressful conditions.
Like in your accident, you walk unharmed, you and Jayanti Mataji. Remember?
Yeah, that was far out. The van rolled over.
Van is written off.
And
you
on the
should
other
walk
side of the
unharmed.
road, and the guy got out of the car and said, "You're very lucky. I missed you by, half a meter." He was coming into our windscreen. I saw, actually, it all happened really fast, but I saw this big black shape come towards the windscreen. And it was so fast, I didn't know what to think. But it was actually his car because we were on his side of the road. And by Krishna's mercy, we just walked out of the car. And no one could believe that we just got out of the car like what we did.
Same
And
like
we didn't
us
even
as
go to
well.
the hospital or anything.
Yeah. Our
We
accident as well with the breast, me and
didn't even have any
Devari.
cuts or bruises.
I just think that's if someone's acting as your enemy,
Yeah.
it's better to suffer than to protest. Yeah, that's fine, but we don't have to. We are allowed to get away from the enemy. We don't have to just sit there and suffer and suffer and suffer because it's our past misdeeds. We don't have to be a friend to our enemy, to someone acting as the enemy. Like, we can treat them with respect and all that sort of thing, but we don't have to. We've got to draw the line somewhere, I think.
No, I mean, you don't have to keep associating with them closely, but you
Yeah.
also don't have to have bad feelings towards them. And that's what it's saying there. You don't see them as an enemy.
Yeah, but
You
you
just
don't.
see them as an instrument for your own, the word OWN, our own past karma. This is the reaction coming. And this person is just the instrument for the material nature giving us our reaction.
Yeah, definitely. But we also don't have to associate with people that are acting as
No, so it's not saying that. So I mean, Eustace there also, he didn't closely associate with Jude or anything, but he didn't have any bad feelings towards him, because obviously, if your mind is absorbed in thoughts of hatred towards anyone, then what's going to happen to Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, you're not thinking about
window.
You're not thinking about Krishna, yeah. What do you? Because there's two ways our mind gets completely absorbed in the material world. Things that you really like, you think about a lot, right? What you really like, and what you really don't like. But both side dualities, right? So both of them occupy our mind. I love you, and you think about that person. I hate you, and you think about that person. But in both ways, your mind is completely captivated by Maya. So devotees recommended to be more equipoised, more neutral. Don't particularly become attached to anything in this world, and don't particularly hate anything in this world. Because whatever you're attracted to and attached to, you think about it. Whatever you hate, you think about it. So in both directions, we forget Krishna. So this is the idea here, to be very neutral, and that's what's mentioned in these verses, to be very equipoised and very neutral in the material world. Nirmama means that a devotee does not attach much importance to the pains and trouble pertaining to the body, because he knows perfectly well that he is not the material body. He does not identify with the body, therefore he is freed from the conception of false ego and is equipoised in happiness and distress. So this is so liberating. When we're put in our body is put into a difficult situation, our mind or whatever, but we don't give that much importance. Why don't we give the physical and mental suffering much importance? Because we know we're not the body, and we're not the mind either, that we're the eternal soul. So we don't give much importance to it. I mean, it's really happening. Yes, the body is getting affected by something. It's like my body got affected by the spider bite, but I don't give it much importance. It happened. It's real. It really happened. But it happened to the body, and the body is not me. It's just temporary. It's a vehicle that I'm in, a dress, but I'm different than the body. So we don't give it much importance. And that also frees you up from a lot of the anxiety and fear and so many things like that. So here's tolerance. Yep.
This is where I really struggle with some of the things that are said, because having the mental health issues that I do, because of things that have been done to the body, it's like I naturally, my mind is trapped in anxiety. I go into panic attacks and things when I have, because my mind will have flashbacks and things like that. And I know they're not real, and I know I'm not the body, but it's physically happening to me. I'll stand there and I'll just start shaking like this, and then I start sweating, and that's all I can see, and I feel sick. So it does. Even if I'm thinking I'm not the body, well, I'm in the body, and this is affecting my body, and it's affecting my ability to do service and things like that. So I think it's really hard, this, when it comes, like we say, oh, we're never going to have anxiety and we're never going to have fear. And like when I've got this because of my karma, is to have all this mental stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's not just going to get taken away if I just think of Krishna, you know?
It does. 100%.
You don't know that, Gulshan, because you're not in my mind and you're not in my body. You've never had anything like that happen to you.
I've gone through the tough as well. When I had a cancer, I was thinking that why me?
Oh, I don't think why me, and I don't sit here and feel sorry for myself.
No, Abhay Prabhu used to come to the hospital. Remember that? So I had no one there. And when I start walking a little bit in the hospital gown, sitting outside, I did not have my chanting beads, just chanting Hare Krishna and then look in the sky. And slowly, I mean, some they are more harder, I guess, but Krishna is the only way. I don't think so anyone else can help.
Maybe one day I'll reach the level of like, I don't know. It just doesn't.
The main way we achieve this platform that's being talked about is by devotional service. So we're all on the right track. We're engaging in devotional service. We're chanting, taking prasadam, associating with devotees, hearing about Krishna. So we're going to get purified, and then slowly get more and more purified. And then the more we'll realize that we're not the body, we're not the mind, and we'll be, associating less with all these kind of thoughts related to the body and the mind. But it's not an artificial process. It's a natural process. It'll automatically happen. You can't force it to happen, or you can't, because the way it works for one person not necessarily going to be the same for someone else, because we have different conditions. But we just take up the process of surrendering to Krishna, and we leave it up to Krishna to sort it out. We're just trying to please Krishna, and Krishna can deal with all of our issues.
I mean, it's definitely where it says, therefore he is always calm, quiet, patient, despite many distressful conditions. Well, I'm yet to see devotee in that condition yet. Maybe Prabhupada. I'm sorry. But
Well, I mean, I've noticed the massive changes in yourself since when you first came in the door of the Bhakti tree. I mean, you might not notice the transformation, but you're a lot more calmer, anxiety-free, and everything than before you were practicing Krishna consciousness. And the changes in Gulshan also, and in Bob also.
Even Mahabhadra, Brett was saying that he was very angry. Now he's not much angry.
Yeah. So slowly, transformation is taking place, and these qualities are being achieved slowly, just by taking up the process of surrender to
Just
Krishna.
faith in Krishna Don't
Yeah.
put the time limit.
Yeah, I mean,
I think sometimes I get stuck because I think they're talking about pure devotees,
well,
in
these
the
are qualities mentioned that are very pleasing to Krishna, and like it's mentioned at the end of the verse, become very dear. You become very dear to Krishna if you possess these qualities. These are qualities that Krishna likes to see in someone, and he becomes very pleased with that person. So these are qualities we want to know about, and we want to try to cultivate them as much as possible, and think about them and try to cultivate them. And on the other hand, we realize we can't make these changes by ourselves. We need help. So we're depending on the spiritual master and Krishna's mercy to help us. But at the same time, we want to know about these qualities, that this is what Krishna likes, this kind of behavior. So let me, strive for that kind of behavior, to be tolerant, like it's saying here, satisfied with whatever comes of the grace of the Supreme Lord. He does not endeavor much to achieve something with great difficulty. Therefore, he is always joyful. He is a completely perfect mystic because he has fixed the instructions received from the spiritual master, and because his senses are controlled, he is determined. He is not swayed by false arguments, because no one can lead him from the fixed determination of devotional service. He is fully conscious that Krishna is the eternal Lord, so no one can disturb him. All these qualifications enable him to fix his mind and intelligence entirely on the Supreme Lord. Such a standard of devotional service is undoubtedly very rare, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulated principles of devotional service. Furthermore, the Lord says that such a devotee is very dear to him, for the Lord is always pleased with all his activities in full Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada is saying here that it is rare, yes, to achieve all these qualities, but a devotee becomes situated in that stage by following the regulated principles. So that's what we're all doing. We're all following the regulated principles as given by Prabhupada, which he's taken from the scriptures. Chanting 16 rounds, we're trying to do that, getting up to that, towards that platform, if not doing it, but we're trying to get closer to it, and following the four regulated principles and trying to spread Krishna consciousness. So this is the regulated process. So Prabhupada said by following this regulated process, we can achieve these qualities. So we have faith in those statements, and we've personally seen how people do make massive changes through following this process. It's a very transformative process. And we'll just read the translation for the next one. Someone want to read that? 15?
15, yeah. The translation, the purport?
Translation.
Okay, yeah. A few of the devotees' qualifications are further being described. No one is put into a difficulty, anxiety, fearfulness, or dissatisfaction by such a devotee. Since the devotee is kind to everyone, he does not act in such a way as to put others into anxiety. At the same time, if others try to put that a devotee into anxiety, he is not disturbed. He is by the grace of the Lord that he is so practiced that he is not disturbed by any outward disturbance. Actually, because a devotee is always engrossed in Krishna consciousness and engaged in devotional service, such material circumstances cannot move him. Generally, a materialistic person becomes very happy when there is something for his sense gratification in his body. But when he sees that others have something for their sense gratification and he hasn't, he is sorry and envious. When he is expecting some retaliation from the enemy, he is in the state of fear. And when he cannot successfully execute something, he becomes dejected. A devotee who is always transcendental to all these disturbances is very dear to Krishna.
Bob, you want to read the translation for the last one?
I Look, I'm sorry, I'm paying attention, but I lost you when you asked us to go to 13 early.
Okay, so now I'm asking you if you could read text 16, 12th chapter, text 16.
So chapter 12.
Text 16,
Right,
just the
bear with me.
translation.
Okay, now I'm with you. Sorry.
That's all right, that's all right.
Nearly there. 12:16 you said, didn't you?
Yes.
Okay, so you want me to read the purport?
No, just the translation. My devotee.
Okay. Where he says, he by whom no one is put into difficulty?
No, 16.
16, right up.
My devotee.
Okay. My devotee who is not dependent on the ordinary course of activities, who is pure, expert, without cares, free from all pains and not striving for some result, is very dear to me.
So that's what can be achieved without cares, free from all pains. Doesn't that sound good?
Yep.
Isn't that something worth achieving? And if we just engage in devotional service, we can come to that point where we can become free from all cares, free from all anxieties. We're free from pains. So why not? These are all wonderful results of devotional service, that we can attain these qualities.
And these words are spoken by Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead, not just ordinary person, but the God, Bhagwan.
Yeah.
If Bhagwan say that, nothing is beyond that. Nothing is over that. That is the final full stop.
Prabhupada's guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, said, don't try to see Krishna, but act in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. So these are the qualities that if we can try to develop these qualities, Krishna will want to see us. Isn't that amazing? That we can behave in such a way that Krishna will want to see us. So doesn't that make it worthwhile developing these qualities?
Look, it's such a simple statement. It makes so much sense. I think I'm talking about text 16. I think 99% of the population would love to be in that position.
Yeah, we would love to have these qualities, but people don't know how to achieve them. But we know how to achieve them just by chanting Hare Krishna and following the regulated principles, that we can slowly develop these qualities. So it is achievable. It is achievable if we follow the process of purification as given by Prabhupada. But we should know what these qualities are, what pleases Krishna, and we should try to act in such a way that pleases Krishna.
Bhakti Mala pleases Krishna very well because she's a pastry chef. Today she baked a pistachio cupcake and we tried one and it's mouth-watering, sensational.
Oh, stop it.
And Bhakti Mala gonna be, open his own bakery, Krishna's Bakery.
Krishna's Bakery, yes.
Yes.
We had the most beautiful sweet at last Saturday, thanks to Bhakti Mala.
Okay, what was it?
Well, you'll have to tell me what it was. I don't know how to pronounce it.
You don't even know what was it.
Well, it was a banana caramel.
No, there was a banoffee pie.
A banoffee pie.
Yeah, and then 2 days ago, she cooked on a Monday, she cooked a cheesecake.
Ooh.
So she's getting better and better because all glories to Jagannath.
Oh, that's very nice. So yeah, let's all try, give our full hearts, our full energy to trying to please Krishna in different ways, through welcoming people into the bhakti tree, or through cooking for Krishna, through hearing about Krishna and chanting and whatever our different services are?
I mean, you can. There's 100 people come in the bhakti tree. You can't please all 100 people. Few people will be like that, and they are in a society. They was, they now, they will be. Don't worry. Just treat everyone the same. Prashadam. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Mm. Mm. But even like here it was mentioned in text 15, he by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone. So these are such nice qualities that if someone tries to disturb us, we don't become agitated, and we don't do anything. We don't do anything to try to disturb anyone else. So these are very lovely qualities. And then automatically you have better relationships with people. But our main aim is to please Krishna. We can't, like you say, we can't please everyone all the time, but we just try to please Krishna all the time. So thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna.
I really enjoyed today. Thank you. And just a message to Bhakti. Bhakti, I took that on board of what you texted me the other day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hare Krishna.
See you next Thursday, will we?
See you next
Yes.
Thursday.
Yes.
All right. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.